Welcome to Overnight Market Brief, Pre-Market Edition by AGI Era. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, and it is shortly after 8 a.m. Eastern Time. This is your executive summary of global market developments, analyzing the overnight flows in Asia and Europe, the key macro drivers, and the setup for the North American Open. The prior session and macro context. First, a look back at yesterday's close. Wall Street finished on a slightly positive footing. The S&P 500 settled at 69.77, up 0.16%, while the Nasdaq 100 gained 0.08% to close at 25,788. Crucially, the session saw a modest risk-on bias, but the real story right now is in the macro assets. Right now, the 10-year Treasury yield is trading at 4.197%, up 0.43%. The US dollar index is up 0.19% at 98.81, while crude oil is up 2.42%, around 60.76. The uptick in the 10-year Treasury yield is exerting slight pressure on growth-oriented assets this morning, while the stronger dollar presents a minor headwind for US multinationals. Crude oil's significant rise could reignite inflation concerns. Overnight session, Asia and Europe. Moving to the overnight session, global markets have been mixed. In Asia, the picture was divergent. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 finished up 3.09%, tracking significant yen weakness driven by speculation around a potential snap election. Meanwhile, in Greater China, the Hang Seng gained 0.90%, while the Shanghai Composite declined 0.63%. The divergence here was driven by broader concerns over potential U.S. tariff threats and geopolitical unrest, despite news of China's central bank potentially reversing FX measures. In Europe, major indices are trading with a cautious tone. The price action suggests a wait-and-see approach, providing a subdued lead-in for U.S. traders. U.S. futures and the open. Turning to the U.S. pre-market, equity futures are slightly lower. S&P 500 futures are trading down 0.10%, while Nasdaq 100 futures are down 0.19%. The relative underperformance in Nasdaq futures suggests investors are reacting to the overnight rise in the 10-year Treasury yield, indicating a slight rotation out of technology and growth stocks. The daily catalyst. Looking ahead to the session, investors are focused on three key catalysts. First, the US December CPI data is expected later this week, with market participants closely watching for any pre-release positioning. Second, ongoing geopolitical developments, particularly concerning Iran and potential U.S. tariff threats, remain a key sentiment driver. And finally, comments from Federal Reserve officials will be scrutinized for any shifts in monetary policy outlook. Given the overnight setup in rates and the dollar, the market's path of least resistance appears to be range-bound, with a slight downward bias, pending any surprises from the upcoming data releases and central bank commentary. That concludes your overnight market brief. Disclaimer: this podcast is not financial advice. Data may be delayed or inaccurate. Always conduct your own due diligence.